the manipulation of consciousness, fear as a tool of social control. It is difficult to change a society where madness has become a habitual practice. And when madness becomes so intact with the populace, it is evident that anger and hatred become easier to manifest. We are angry towards everyone else because we are subconsciously angry at ourselves for registering to the norms of the society and the state. We have falsely been taught that we are social animals. We are beings who have mastered communication with our group, and this has helped us shape our civilization into where we are. However, civilization is not made by an individual, it is made by the group. An individual in its self or form is by nature free, but this freedom has been controlled since the dawn of society. Freedom is controlled to accumulate power because power of the ruler requires a controlled freedom of the individual, which is only possible when the mass is controlled. Think of it like a paradox of some sort. The group is controlled easily than an individual because it has no mind of its own, and it is the individual that is the origination of change. The group, it follows what an individual has originally thought of. However, the group can easily be manipulated, and thus the original thought can get lost amongst the new power accumulators. Revolutions, they start from the mind of one single individual. It is most possibly started by one person's ideals of a group. Society is an example of such group. One person talks about his or her thought, and when he or she talks about it, there must be someone to listen to it. This is communication. When this happens, if the other person becomes attached to that thought so immensely and profoundly, then this is the start of a revolution. It is, however, a sad fact that this revolution is adulterated in its later stages because the group that wants to garner control always manipulates the path the revolution takes. Since we believe to be social animals, we adhere to society and its standards, and thus revolution changes our thought patterns easily. The history of revolutions has taught us that we have yet not understood that they can actually manipulate us into changing our thought pattern, that our thoughts can be changed through it, one function of the mind. We become attached to it too quick. We become attached to it quickly because we are fearful in our current state, and whatever change is ahead of us becomes ideal. In a societal structure, there is always a conflict before the start of a revolution. This conflict gives space for fear to grow. Fear is a cause for anger, and these emotions give rise to constant struggle within the society, and thus revolution, which is a harbinger of change, we become attached to it too quick. Our mind is accustomed to run from the state that we are in. Fear, it thus can either create or destroy. Jiddu Krishnamurti says that thoughts that form out of fears are tied to innovations and discoveries. Fear is related with security, certainty, and the quality of assurance. Humans, out of fear, either create innovations or destroy a rational mind by inventing illusions that are both intellectually and emotionally satisfactory. We try to find out if there is security in belief, in dogma, and in conclusion. We try to find security and certainty in relationships. When we don't find it, we come to a conclusion to which our brain becomes instantly attached. But when this conclusion is questioned or disturbed, we run away from it towards another conclusion. We are attached to thoughts and ideas and principles, be it ours own or someone else's. So, why are we attached to ideas and thoughts? We fear death, and thus this gives rise to other fears, such as of insecurity and of uncertainty. We crave security and certainty. We are either attached to property or to an illusion or people. Our mind is never free of attachments. Attachment to property is not only related with an object, but it is also related to one's own body. We try to find out if me, the identity, is permanent, for the body is temporary. So we related identity with property. Property can be money, land, or also anything that we attach value to, including power and control. This property will be passed down either to our children or to our followers, or will be auctioned or donated. So a form of identity will remain permanent. We have related identity with power and control. So since power and control is a form of identity, the group craves it. Making an identity permanent relates to security and certainty. An individual free from societal structures has no identity. This individual, in accordance to Ashtavakra, is a mirror that reflects the environment around him or her. But an individual grasped by the society keeps on searching for his or her identity. Since the individual by nature has no identity, now it falls under categorizations defined by the society. This identity is defined by the society, and thus the individual living in a group can be easily manipulated into finding an identity as wished by the group seeking for power. When this identity is questioned, we are left with nothing and we become fearful of our existence. Fear is a powerful emotion that can be structurally exploited as an effective tool for social control. The group in power creates illusions of threats. These threats are hard and difficult to verify by the general mass. Fears are always regarding what might happen, and thus non verifiable threats give rise to uncertainty. The group in power portrays other nations or certain groups as looming threats. It exaggerates elements within the society that might cause harm and thus amplifies existing fears. It constantly reminds you of the situation that it wants you to believe. This group utilizes media and sensationalizes what has happened. Jean Baudrillard, a French sociologist, discusses how media can create fear and shape reality in works. The group it blames the existing problems on other groups to grab the existing power. It encourages division and distrust within communities. See how the Maoist insurgency gave rise to divisions and distrusts among groups. They will keep on exploiting uncertainty. They will keep on putting you in confusion about the nature and extent of the threats. The media will provide incomplete information or information that they want to feed you. When your fear now crosses its threshold, it turns into anxiety, and this anxiety gives rise to a fight or flight reaction. Now they will define a crisis. They will use a real crisis or a manufactured one to start a movement. Their engineered movement will maintain a state of unending emergency. Fear it triggers the amygdala, the brain's emotional center, often overriding the prefrontal cortex responsible for logical thinking. This makes people more susceptible to influence and less likely to critically analyze information. When you are fearful, you become less logical. Thus, since we are in a state of fight or flight, we will easily accept authority over us. Any kind of change we will accept in exchange for the manufactured safety. People will have an urgency to accept such safety. We are pressured into making quick decisions without any consideration of the consequences. Now they have already fostered fear of an existing authority or a concept, and now they will provide a solution or display a protector or a hero against that threat. We easily become dependent on the source of safety tailored for us. Slavoj Žižek, a Slovenian philosopher, strains on how fear can be used in contemporary politics and culture to manipulate the group and in an individual level. Not only in contemporary politics, but in Western ideals, fear, anxiety, dread have been seen as a dependable tool of continuing authority. In The Prince, Niccolo Machiavelli discusses how fear is more reliable than love in maintaining political power. We, as human beings, need straightforward answers to our questions, and thus we are very attracted to concepts. Attachment to concepts is what gives leverage to groups that wish to control the individuals. Thus, this group develops concepts as per their own desire, and we individuals follow them as they are provided to us. We could not critically analyze the overthrowing of the monarchy because we were tailored into thinking that it would be dangerous for our survival. We then immediately accepted a manufactured government which has helped develop a state with never ending crises. The fear of violent death was a primary motivator for people to submit to governmental authority, as per Thomas Hobbes, an English philosopher famous for his book Leviathan, written in 1651, whereby fear, as per him, is a primary motivator of social contract. In contemporary situations, new crises are identified to create fear among the masses. Fear, it makes us accept authority as fast as we can. They have made us compliant with their authority. We are not able to assess situations rationally. We conform to our group and have little to no idea about the idea of freedom they want to feed us. For example, laws are used as a tool of social control. On one hand, laws are essential for structuring the group, but they are also utilized to put fear and limit freedoms. Penalties for certain natural human behaviors will deter people from engaging in activities that might challenge authority. This fear of punishment can lead to self censorship, whereby people will avoid expressing dissenting opinions or taking actions that could be seen as controversial, even if they are not illegal. So you fear punishment and you hold yourself back from expressing your thoughts. If laws are enforced to penalize people who raise concerns over the government, a general sense of anxiety is created. This shall lead to a culture of compliance over the authority. Freedoms like the freedom of expression are thus vaguely defined so as to limit them as required. The exceptions created by the government to silence any criticisms and are framed around the notion of protecting national security, public order, or morality. The group in control thus limit not only the voices but also thoughts and ideas. We do not have freedom of consciousness because our consciousness has been modeled without us even understanding that we have been compliant all along. We shall readily accept any ideas fed to us. We are in a perpetual state of mass psychosis because our mind has been murdered a while back. Our consciousness has been crumbled. We were put into positions where we readily accepted to burn women. We did it in Europe while calling women witches, and we did it in India and here in Nepal while calling women goddesses Sati. We will follow the group blindly. We follow concepts blindly. When these are manufactured by the group we want to identify with, cultures, traditions, religions, and politics, whatever concepts are fed to us, we feed and become obese. Self identification is very important, but it is also important for us to have these identities recognized by others because identities they demand recognition. We crave attention, we crave eyes upon us. Thus, we join groups. We will follow the group and then attach ourselves to various manufactured identities and mold ourselves in it. We become Democrats, capitalists, communists, socialists, liberals, Christians, Hindus, Muslims, and whatnot. Even if we might subconsciously disagree with a concept fed to us, we will still be attached to it. Because ultimately we want to survive in the group and display our ability to survive. Sigmund Freud, he theorized that a person may have bought a car because a car determines social hierarchy. Freud talks about how identification with a group can lead to a loss of individuality and increased vulnerability to the influence of leaders. The individual, he or she will not only dress similar to others in the group, but he or she will also align to the political, religious, or cultural views with those prevalent in the group. This person will avoid expressing opinions that might be against the group's ideology and will support any concept or thoughts of the group that are not personally important for him or her. To reach the group identification, the individual will work tirelessly day and night. The individual to fit in the group will hide aspects of their own identity to conform with the group. They will change personal preferences and align their likes to the groups. The group with power knows this and thus defines identity in such a way that it earns them more power and control over the individual. Though those in power exploit the human tendency to conform to group norms by creating environments where conformity it aligns with safety, identity, and social acceptance, while nonconformity is discouraged or punished. In an underdeveloped country, they will deliberately cause mass habitual uncivilized practices so that we do not rise above to question and demand civilizational corrections. One of these mass habitual uncivilized practices see the pedestrians walking in the main road rather than use the inner road just next to it. This is probably because of the lack of proper pedestrian path. But this has already been established as an acceptable practice. The oncoming traffic can do nothing but be angry. The pedestrians, they will still do it. It is a habit. It has already become a habit. They're helpless. The government, it knows about it, but wishes to do nothing. They want the general people to walk on the road. They don't want them waking up from that habit. See, the traffic not waiting at the zebra crossing, they are the same. Nietzsche critiques herd mentality and conformity, which he sees as murdering individual creativity and greatness. He argues that society often promotes mediocrity through conformity to the manufactured ideologies, and the individuals should strive to transcend these limitations to achieve their true potential. The authority does not want you to rise and question them. Besides, they educate us to inject conforming behaviors. The schools, look at them, they are shaped as such. In his book Dumbing Us Down, John Taylor Gatto has argued that the schooling system in the America is designed not to educate but to strangle creativity, critical thinking, and individuality. It is the same everywhere else. They make us passive, they dumb us down, and they teach us conformity, obedience, and they kill independent thought and learning. Gatto, he emphasizes that the system of education is structured as such so as to create compliant workers rather than enlightened individuals. We are dumbed down and turned into obedient finished products. The schools are factories, the producers are the society, and we, individuals, we are the products. Group conformity and the influence of political power on individual behavior has been well theorized by Plato in his allegory of the cave. People can be manipulated by those in power to accept a false reality. The allegory illustrates how individuals conforming to the shadows on the wall may resist the truth if it challenges the established order. Any individual who accepts the truth is branded a liar or a lunatic. John Stuart Mill on Liberty explores how the societal pressure can suppress individuality through conformity. In A Thousand Plateaus, Capitalism and Schizophrenia, the writers theorize how a state constantly tries to capture and control the existing forces. Power systems they break down and reassert themselves. They create societal control which continuously break previous control mechanisms and establish new controls or re-establish controls in new forms. Those who lose power they try to re-establish themselves in new forms and designs. Thus, the society keeps on spiraling under power, new or old. No matter which, if the group demands authority and does everything to manipulate an individual's thought pattern to garner control, this group, it will never support genuine human freedom and well-being. So what can be done? To resist control, one must be a nonconformist. So says the American philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson. By being a nonconformist, you revolt. By being a conformist, you become stagnant because you are grasped by the societal ideals fed to you throughout your life. You are a product, nothing else. By being a nonconformist, you stand solitary and with a free consciousness, undisturbed. You become unique. Being a nonconformist does not, however, distance you from the environment you are in. It makes you well enough to live in harmony with the conformists, but with an authentic experience, an authentic existence. You, however, decline being controlled by the group. Emerson wants us to trust our own intuition and inner voice that knows how to separate between the right and the wrong. Individuals' wisdom triumphs over societal conventions. Friedrich Nietzsche warned us against the herd mentality and he encouraged us to question societal norms. Self realization is important and that we are to create our own values. We are to embrace life's challenges and we need to create our own meaning. Albert Camus says the same in his works, explores the idea of the absurd and that the human desires and strives for meaning, but the universe is meaningless, that the societal ideals serve no purpose but to exert control. Thus, individual judgment is far important than the expectations of the herd or the society. Hannah Arendt, she emphasized the importance of individual thought and that suppression of the individual kills creativity and the capacity of a human to bring new beginnings into the world. Adi Shankara, the proponent of non dualism, emphasized on the illusory nature of the material world, and thus, since the world is Maya, since it is illusion, the societal constructs are branches of the same illusion. We should begin questioning conventional understanding of how we are supposed to exist in a state, for the state is a construct of the group itself. Ramanuja's philosophy emphasizes devotion, bhakti, over rigid ritualism. Not only the rituals of the religion, but the ritualistic tendencies of the society are to be questioned and opposed. Be free. Be free to worldly attachments and seek direct experience of existence. Do not be blinded by the fear from threats that they have portrayed, but be wary of the dangers and find protection. If your path is blocked, revolt with nonconformity. Build critical thinking. Educate yourself. Read with an open and non biased thinking. Question history, question ideas, question practices, and reject expectations that do not align to self realization. Define your own values. Identify what matters without any societal pressures. Make choices that support your values. Do not care about what the society expects of you. You are not here to serve anyone. Do not conform, but do not harm either. Reevaluate the concept of happiness. Separate it from pleasure. Separate your thoughts from the concepts of morality and immorality. These are defined by the society. Share your ideas that question control. Listen to others' ideas, free from bias. Be creative. Limit your dependence on systems that enforce social controls. Minimize consumerism. Cross check media information. Cross check any information fed to you. Practice mindfulness and other practices to help yourself realize and be aware. Think independently and create your own thoughts and avoid any kind of pressure to conform to popular opinions, ideas, or mass culture. Embrace failures and criticisms and learn from obstacles. Nonconformity does not mean rejecting society, but about being independent from society and making conscious choices and being authentic. A belief is purely an individual matter, and you cannot and must not organize it. If you do, it becomes dead, crystallized. It becomes a creed, a sect, a religion to be imposed on others. This is what everyone throughout the world is attempting to do. Truth is narrowed down and made a plaything for those who are weak, for those who are only momentarily discontented. Truth cannot be brought down. Rather, the individual must make the effort to ascend to it. Jiddu Krishnamurti.